What's silenced a lot of the warrior spirit in people, in your
Oh my
opinion?
gosh. I think there's a huge echo chamber on social media. I think people have divided into camps more than
Mm.
we've ever seen, and I think it really breaks down dialogue. It kills conversations or collaboration. I mean, we're social creatures by design. I was taught by my elders that we're more like bees and ants than eagles. We need each
Hmm.
other. We're better when we're with each other. Um, but right now it's like everybody is so divided into these different camps, and it's we all have to learn how to get along and compromise a little bit. um, we live on a planet where we're growing and the planet seems to be shrinking, and
Hmm.
we have to get this part right. And that comes through conversation, getting to know each other, being able to find out ways that we can help each other, that we can serve each other. But a big part of it too is taking care of ourselves. That's one of the things that we're not good for anybody, including ourselves, when we're falling apart. And I say that in the book.
Hmm.
You can't be a warrior when you're falling apart. Self care is critical. If we don't take care of ourselves first, everything else we do is going to be compromised. We
Hmm.
get you know uh, grumpy with people. We say something in a moment we regret for a week. um, we're not able to solve problems. We're not creative. We're not innovative. We're not friendly in those moments when we're just hanging on by our fingertips because we are in crisis mode and we're driving ourselves to the brink of burnout. So that has to be a really a centerpiece of walking this path.
What do you think for those that are maybe lacking in warrior spirit? What's the first step in getting that warrior back online? I know in your book you talk a lot about, and I love this stuff, is all the different tribal ceremonies that you've taken part in. I'd like to touch
Hmm.
on some of those at some point as well. I think there's one you did called, is it Wiping the Tears ceremony?
Yeah.
And you did the Vision Quest.
Hmm.
And in Western society, we just don't really have a lot of access to that, those types of warrior initiation, I guess, or that type of, or even that feeling of being part of a tribe. I think
Yeah. Sense
it
of belonging. Yeah.
yeah, it goes with what you're saying about how we're so divided, and in a way, I think it's because we are, especially in Western culture, lacking that sense of tribe, that sense of community, and then also lacking a bit of that initiation into this warrior kind of spirit and mentality. So, uh, yeah, like moving forward, what do you think is the best way into that realm?
Well, I think, harnessing our warrior spirit is first identifying it, identifying those moments in your life where you really had to dig deep. You had to pull out reserves that you didn't know that you had. And we learn that a lot of times through struggle and pain. We've all had these moments where we've had to do hard things in hard circumstances. And those are the moments that we really need to reflect and say, this is what I'm made of. This is my grit. This is my inner core. This is that thing that gets triggered when I'm pushed, my back is against a wall or I'm in a corner. And when we identify that, we have confidence that we can do the next hard thing. We're not going on faith. Faith is a beautiful thing. It's a powerful thing. It's sustaining, but we don't have to base that idea that we have warrior spirit on faith. We can base it on evidence where we've shown that in the past. And that warrior spirit is basically, what are we willing to fight for? What are we willing to put our time and energy to? What is important to us? What are our values? Who do we love? What are we willing to fight for? Because that was always a secret superpower for our warriors in our native communities is they loved who they were fighting for. And it drove us to higher levels, drove them to higher levels of of activity, of achievement, of getting through hard times, fighting against the odds. Outnumbered, outmatched technologically, they still found a way to do what they needed to do for their people. And that's a beautiful lesson that I think all of us can take in life. We live in a tough world. Life is hard. Just when you think you got it all figured out, somebody will come and kick you right in the teeth.
Hmm.
And this is the moment where you don't have to struggle and feel that everything's falling apart and everything's, it's never going to be the same. It's dig in with, what you've shown yourself in the past and say, I can do this. I'm not basing it on faith. I'm basing it on evidence. I got this. I've been here before. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And now I know how to respond in this moment. But that warrior spirit is that it's that no quit, all grit, I will find a way forward attitude that we need when we go through struggle and hard times. And I always ask people to take a moment and reflect on that. For crying out loud, we just blow through hard things in life and we just stumble forward and you're like, oh, thank God I got through that. And, off to the next thing. It's like, no, please just pause for a minute, reflect on what it took for you as a person to get through that. What did you have to show? What was new that appeared on your radar in that moment? And when you start to process that, you can catalog that for the future. And then the next time you get to that moment where you're scared, you're doubtful, you're hesitant, you're going through something painful or a struggle, you can say, I got this. And you're not just blowing smoke. You're like I said, basing it on evidence.